Hello friends, good evening. Welcome to the lecture number 2 of medieval history conceptual part. Last time, if you remember, we have seen the first Arab invasion in the form of Muhammad bin Qasim in 712 AD, and later we also touched upon Mahmud of Ghazni's invasions in India, which we saw he invaded India 17 times. Now today our topic of discussion will be Delhi Sultanate. But before starting Delhi Sultanate, it is worth mentioning the name of two personalities who invaded India before Delhi Sultanate, before the establishment of Delhi Sultanate, and those were Mahmud Ghazni and Muhammad Ghori. It would be interesting for us to note the difference in the consequences that these invasions led to the India. While Muhammad Ghori's invasions gradually led to the establishment of Delhi Sultanate. Now, for Delhi Sultanate, we have to study the whole period in three different parts. The object of our focus would be three. First, we have to look into different dynasties that ruled India during that period. The important kings, we have to focus on the important kings, their policies, their behavior, how they manage, and what differences in administration they brought. Now, the second would be the administrative setup of Delhi Sultanate. This becomes a very important part to understand because as we know, these rulers were from Afghan and Turkish origin, so they brought many different administrative traits from the Central Asia, and which they tried in Indian subcontinent as well. And we will see how these different administrative traits of Central Asia evolved during the period as per the local requirements. And third would be the cultural development during this period, which we would be touching upon in this medieval history part. Plus, we would also be dealing on this when we will be studying the art and architecture of India. Now, the rulers who ruled the substantial part of India, mostly the northern India, and then later we will see they also went till the South India, between approximately 1206 AD to 1526 AD are termed as sultans, and the period of their rule is termed as Delhi Sultanate. Why it is known as Delhi Sultanate? It is because Delhi during that time acted as the main center of power. Apart from the first Delhi Sultanate king, who was Aibak, who ruled from Lahore, then we will see in some time from now it was Iltutmish who actually shifted the capital from Lahore to Delhi, and thus from Delhi then acted as the capital of the India for the first time. These rulers who were Turkish and Afghan in origin, they established their rule in India after defeating the Indian ruling dynasties, which were mainly, we have seen in North India at that time, were the various Rajput dynasties which were prevailing. And one important ruler worth mentioning here that time was the Prithviraj Singh Chauhan, who has a great name in the history of India. He was the ruler of Delhi, and after defeating him, actually, Prithviraj Singh Chauhan, Muhammad Ghori, in 1192 AD in the Battle of Tehran, they started actually the rule of Delhi Sultanate in India. These sultans actually ruled for more than 300 years, as you can see on the screen as well, from 1206 AD right to 1526 AD. The last Delhi Sultan was Ibrahim Lodi of Lodi dynasty. He was defeated by the Mughals under the leadership of Babur in 1526 AD at First Battle of Panipat, and which actually led to the establishment of the Mughal ruler in India. Now, during these 300 years, we have to focus on five important dynasties and some important kings of those dynasties. So let us have a look at those dynasties. As you can read on your screen as well. First was the slave dynasty, which ruled between 1206 AD to 1290 AD, and whose founder was Qutbuddin Aibak, who actually became the founder of Delhi Sultanate as well. Qutbuddin Aibak. The second one were the Khaljis, who ruled from 1290 to 1320 AD, whose founder was Jalaluddin Khalji. The Tughlaqs, who ruled from 1230 AD to 1512 AD, whose founder was Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. Next were the Sayyids, who ruled from 1412 AD to 1451 AD, and the last one were the Lodhis, who ruled from 1451 AD to 1526 AD, and after that we see the period of Mughals in India. Now, in these different dynasties, we will be focusing on the important kings. For example, in slave dynasty, we will be starting with Qutbuddin Aibak, and then we see two great kings coming from this dynasty, which were Iltutmish and Balban. In Khaljis, we will be focusing on Alauddin Khalji, who is another great king of Delhi Sultanate. Then Tughlaqs, we will be studying a great personality who is referred as the wisest fool in the history of India, quite an interesting personality, Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Then Sayyids doesn't have an important role to play in the history of India. Then we will be coming to the Lodhis. Muhammad bin Tughlaq and one more, Firoz Shah Tughlaq, also is very important in the history of India for his contributions in the art and architecture of the country. So this is a brief about what we are going to do today. Today we are going to study about these five dynasties, and our objective would be to be focused on what is required for the UPSC purpose. Right. So, as I have discussed before also, there were two important people whom we have to study about before going to Delhi Sultanate, and those are Mahmud of Ghazni and Muhammad Ghori. Now, starting with Mahmud of Ghazni. Ghazni is a place in Afghanistan, and Mahmud of Ghazni was obviously the king of Ghazni, and that is the king of Afghanistan between 1998 to 1030 AD. Now, he invaded India almost 17 times, and his first attack was in 1000 AD. The most famous attack on which we should be focusing came in 1025 AD. Which was at Somnath Temple, and we know Somnath Temple is in Gujarat, and it was this attack which made Mahmud of Ghazni very popular. One important thing to understand is the purpose of his attacks was simply to plunder the wealth, because since that time Indian temples were very rich, and these invaders wanted to exploit the wealth. So his attacks on India were an attempt to fulfill his ambitions to make Ghazni, that is the Afghanistan, the formidable power in the politics of Central Asia. So as we have discussed, Mahmud's Ghazni raids into India were only to acquire the famous wealth of India, and obviously now this wealth would help him to consolidate his vast rule in Central Asia. Another important point to remember here is he did not want it to establish an permanent empire in India. He simply wanted to loot the wealth of India and go back to Afghanistan and do something for the Afghanistan. During the attack at Somnath Temple, he earned the title of Bukht Shikhan. which actually means the destroyer of idols. Last time also in last lecture I think we discussed that when the priest of the temple asked Ghazni not to destroy the idol, he can take whatever wealth he want to take, but Mahmud of Ghazni said, I want to go in history as Bukht Firoz and not as Bukht Shikan. I want to go in history as Bukht Shikan, that is the destroyer of idols, and not as Bukht Firoz. Bukht Firoz means the seller of idols. So this is about Ghazni. It is important to see the consequences of his attacks this time. As we have discussed, he never wanted to establish a permanent empire in India, but his invasions exposed the weak defense of the Indian kingdoms, and they also opened the possibility of attacks in future by the Turks. One more person who is worth mentioning at this point of time is Al-Biruni. He was a great scientist who came to India along with Mahmud Ghazni in the 11th century, but later he settled in Varanasi and learned Sanskrit as well. He wrote a very famous book which is known as the Tahqiq-e-Hind or Kitab-ul-Hind, and this book is known as the mirror of 11th century of India, and in this book he explained a lot about what he saw in India that time, the social culture, the different systems of untouchability, the society, and it becomes a very important book for the historians to understand the India of that time. Now coming to the second person, first was Mahmud Ghazni, and later now we are coming to Muhammad Ghori. He was again the ruler of Afghanistan, and he ascended the throne in 1173 AD. Now here I would like you to focus on the years as well. So 1173 he ascended the throne. But soon after ascending the throne, they realized that they could not gain anything in Central Asia, and this forced Ghori to turn towards India to fulfill his expansionist ambitions. Now contrast with Mahmud Ghazni, Muhammad Ghori was very much interested in establishing a permanent empire in India and not merely looting its wealth. And his campaigns were well organized, and whenever he conquered any territory, he left a general behind to govern it in his absence. So his invasions resulted in the permanent establishment of the Turkish Sultanate in the region lying north of the Vindhyas mountains, that is the northern India. Now let us see how he began his conquest. Ghori led his first expedition in 1175 when he marched against Multan, and he won. So 1173 he ascended the throne. 1175 he conquered Multan. Now after 3 years, that is 1178, he marched again to conquer Gujarat. Now let us see what happens now. When he marched to conquer Gujarat, there was a king, Bhima II, who was a Chalukya ruler. He defeated Muhammad Ghori in the battle of Anilwara. So 1178 he was defeated by Bhima II. Now let us see what he will do next. But this defeat didn't discourage Muhammad Ghori, and he realized the necessity of creating a suitable base in Punjab before venturing on to further conquests. So now next 12 years from 1178 till 1190 he focused on Punjab. and he focused on Punjab, and he thought like once I would be master of Punjab, then it would be easy for me to advance into Indian subcontinent. Now comes two very important years in the history of India, which are the first battle of Tarain and second battle of Tarain. So, Muhammad Ghori's possession of Punjab and his attempts to advance into Gangetic Dwab brought him into direct conflict with the Rajput ruler Prithviraj Singh Chauhan, whom we have discussed in the starting as well. And he was the one who had overrun many small states in Rajputanas and captured Delhi. Now he also wanted to extend his control over Punjab. So the conflict between the Ghori and Prithviraj Singh Chauhan started with the claim of Bhatinda, and then we have first battle of Tarain 1191. But this battle, Prithviraj Singh routed Ghori's army, and Ghori suffered a heavy defeat in 1191. Prithviraj Chauhan, but in spite of this winning Bhatinda, he made no concrete efforts to garrison it effectively, and this gave Ghori an opportunity to reassemble his forces and make preparations for another advance into India. Right, now we come to the turning point in the history of India, and that is 1192. Some years really becomes important in the history, like 1192 when we see the Battle of Tarain, second Battle of Tarain, 1526 the first Battle of Panipat, and the second Battle of Panipat between Akbar and Hemu. These are really the turning points in the history of India. So 1192, now discussing about 1192, we have seen Prithviraj Singh Chauhan defeated Ghori in 1191, but 1192 again they came face to face in the second battle of Tarain. And then now let us see what will happen now. Muhammad Ghori now made very careful preparations for this conquest, and the Indian forces were more in number, but Turkish forces were well organized with swift moving cavalry. The bulky Indian forces were no match against the superior organization, skill and the speed of the Turkish cavalry. Here it is worth mentioning the Turkish cavalry this time was using two superior techniques, and which were a horseshoe and iron stirrup. Now the horseshoe, it gives horses a long life and it protects their hooves. And the second, the use of iron stirrup, it gives a good hold to the horse rider and a better striking power in the battle. So the results are clear now only. Large number of Indian soldiers were killed, and even Prithviraj tried to escape, but he was captured, and that is how Ghori defeated one of the biggest ruler of India that time, Prithviraj Singh Chauhan. Now after Tarain, Ghori returned to Ghazni, leaving the affairs of India in the hands of his trusted slave general Qutubuddin Aibak. But again after 2 years, 1194, he returned, and this time he crossed the river Yamuna, and there we see the battle of Chandwa versus Jayachand, ruler Jayachand, Indian ruler Jayachand, and he defeated Jayachand. So the battle of Tarain 1192 and the battle of Chandwa laid the foundations of Turkish rule in northern India. So if it's very clear and easy to understand from the chronology. Even 1173 ascended the throne. He was defeated in 1178. Then after 12 years again he was defeated by Patriarch Chauhan in first battle of Tehran. He defeated Chauhan in 1192 second battle of Tehran. Then he returned back to Ghazni. Then he came back again and defeated Jachand in 1194. So his last attack was in 1206 against Jats, and he was killed in 1206 when he was going back to Afghanistan by some of his rival sects. So Muhammad Ghori had no sons. Now he is dead in 1206 and he had no sons, and he didn't nominate any particular one as his successor. Now it is easy to guess what is going to happen. There's a good to be fight for the throne. Now his death resulted in a scramble of supremacy among his three important generals, as you can read on the screen as well. First one, the Qutbuddin Aibak. Second one is Yildiz, and third one is Qubja. But we finally see Qutbuddin Aibak coming out successful in this battle of three people, and he is regarded as a founder of the Delhi Sultanate, and he also established the first ruling dynasty of the Delhi Sultanate, that is the slave dynasty or Ibadi dynasty. One more person important to note down here is Ikhtiyar Uddin Muhammad Khalji, who came from Turkey and attacked Bihar, and he destroyed Nalanda and Vikramshila monasteries. So this person becomes important for us. Ikhtiyar Uddin Muhammad Khalji. So we are starting with a new dynasty now. That is the slave dynasty, Ibadi dynasty, or also known as the Mamluks. So with Qutbuddin Aibak now begins the period of Mamluk Sultans, or the slave dynasty. So what this word Mamluk means, actually it's an Arabic word which means owned, and this word, it is used to distinguish two different types of slaves. One slaves, these are the ordinary home worker slaves, and others are the military slaves who are used in the military purposes. So these Mamluks or slave dynasty ruled between 1206 AD to 1290 AD. They are also known as Ibadi because they were from the Turkish tribe known as Ibadi. And Qutbuddin Aibak was the only king who was not from the Ibadi dynasty, and all the remaining kings were from this tribe. And in fact, only 3 kings of this dynasty were slaves, as we will discuss. So now coming to the first king of Delhi Sultanate, Qutbuddin Aibak, whom, if you remember, was the slave commander, or the slave who was the commander in the army of Ghori. So Qutbuddin Aibak, he ruled from 1206 to 1210 AD. Now Aibak was the first independent Muslim ruler of northern India and the founder of the Delhi Sultanate. Now Aibak had to face many revolts from Rajputs, other Indian chiefs, and plus we have seen Yildiz and Qubja were also inspiring for independence and aspiring for the throne. Now Aibak was able to win over his enemies by conciliatory measures as well as the display of power. Qutbuddin Aibak was brave, faithful and generous, and due to his generosity he is also known as the Luck Baksh. Luck Baksh means the giver of lacks. Now most of the scholars consider Aibak as the real founder of Muslim rule in India. He has one more credit to his name, and that is he is among the few kings who died accidentally. So not a very good credit to him, but yes, he died accidentally while playing polo and he fell from the horse. So this becomes important questions in on the objective paper. Sometimes they can directly ask how name the king who died while playing polo, or name the king who died falling from library. It is Humayun. So other three kings who died accidentally was Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq of Tughlaq dynasty, then Shah Suri, whom we will study after Humayun. He led to the starting of second Afghan rule in India, and Humayun. So these all three or four kings, including Aibak, they died accidentally. Now let us see some of his contributions in architecture. He constructed a mosque, Quwwatul Islam, at Mehrauli. There is an interesting story for this mosque. This mosque, before being a mosque, it was a Vishnu temple and a Jain temple before that. So, as you can read on the screen as well, these symbols, the religious places, the social places, these were destroyed by the new rulers to just establish and prove the superiority of their culture, religion, their dynasty, their power, and it's considered to be a symbol of their sovereignty. Second contribution by Aibak is Adhairing Ka Jhopda. It's again a mosque at Ajmer. Such a name, Adhairing Ka Jhopda, it was given by the Marathas later. We will see. He also led to the foundation of Qutub Minar. Qutub Minar actually means the victory tower. These are few important points about the Qutub Minar. It is 52.5 meter high. It is the tallest minaret in India and is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It has got such name after Sufi saint Qutubuddin Bakhtiar Kaki. Important to remember this name. It was completed by Iltutmish, who constructed the other floors, while it was Firoz Shah Tughlaq later who built the fifth floor of the Qutub Minar. Over the period of history, it has been repaired by Sikandar Lodi and Major Smith of Badish. These things we will cover in the mornings as well, you know. So now coming to the second king of Delhi Sultanate, that is Iltutmish, and he is one of the greatest king, and he is credited with the consolidation and expansion of the Delhi Sultanate. So we have seen 1210 AD, Aibak died of injuries which he received in the fall from his horse while playing polo. Now after his death, a few Amirs raised his son Aram Shah to the throne in Lahore. And another thing to remember is Qutbuddin Aibak, he ruled from Lahore. That time the capital was Lahore only. So Amirs raised Aram Shah, who was the son of Aibak, to the throne. But Aram Shah proved to be an incapable ruler, and other Amirs opposed him. The Turkish chiefs of Delhi invited the governor of Badaयूं that time, who was the son-in-law of Qutbuddin Aibak, Iltutmish, to come to Delhi, and Iltutmish defeated Aram Shah and ascended the throne of Delhi, and the credit of consolidating the Delhi Sultanate lies largely with him. Okay, so he was the one who shifted the capital from Lahore to Mehrauli, that is Delhi. It was he who gave the country capital, a sovereign state, a monarchical form of government, sound administration, and also a controversial class of nobility, which we will discuss, known as the Turkan-e-Chahalgani or Chalisa. That is a group of 40 nobles. We will see how this Chalisa became controversial in the history of Delhi Sultanate. When Iltutmish ascended the throne, he found himself surrounded with many problems. There were many commanders who rose in defiance against him. There were many Indian kings who were declaring their independence. And apart from this, another factor which always feared the Delhi Sultanate sultans were the rising power of Mongols in Central Asia. That time, during the time of Iltutmish, the Mongols were rising against Genghis Khan. They were threatening India again from the northwest part. So, Genghis Khan. There is another important thing here to remember. In 1220 AD, when Genghis Khan was destroying the complete Central Asia, Iltutmish that time realized the political necessity of avoiding a confrontation with the Mongols. Thus, what happened? One person named by Jalaluddin Mangbarani, while escaping from the Mongols, he sought shelter at Iltutmish court, but Iltutmish turned him away, and he thus saved the Sultanate from the destruction of the Mongols. Let us discuss what this Turkane Chahalgani or Chalisa means. Actually, it was established by Iltutmish, a group of 40 nobles, and these Turkish nobles used to advise and help Sultan in administrating the Sultanate. But we will see after the death of Iltutmish, this group now assumed great power in their hand, and they became to such an extent that for few years they only decided on the selection of sultans one after the other. We will see the group was finally brought under control by the strict policies of the Balban. There is no doubt now that Iltutmish completed the unfinished work of Abak, and he was a far-sighted ruler, and he consolidated and organized the newly formed Turkish Sultanate in India. Iltutmish effectively suppressed the defiant armies of Delhi, and he separated Delhi Sultanate from Ghazni and other Central Asian politics. One more point to remember here is Iltutmish bought a certificate from Caliph of Baghdad. Khalifa, we have seen Khalifas; these are the spiritual leaders of Islam. So he bought a certificate from the Khalifa of Baghdad, which recognized him as the king to please Muslim theologists or the Muslim extremists, and he adopted the title of Nasir Amirul Mu'minin, that is the deputy of Khalifa. But actually there was no direct control of the Khalifa on the politics of India. It was solely on the hands of Iltutmish. Let us see some of his contributions in architecture. We have seen Qutub Minar. Its foundation was led by the Qutbuddin Aibak, but the rest three floors was constructed by the Iltutmish. He built a Hauze-e-Shamshi water tank. Gandak Ki Boli is step wall. It's a very beautiful place. I always advise students of history particularly to visit these 3 or 4 cities and see thoroughly what all historical treasures you get there. First is the Delhi, Agra, Fatehpur Sikri. Then in south you have such a beautiful temple architecture around Aiole and other areas. So as a student of history, you should definitely go there and you will feel what actually history is. So Iltutmish made a significant contribution in giving shape to the administrative institutions, and it was he who introduced the concepts of iktas and Iqtas, and these things we will also study when we will see the administration of Delhi Sultanate. Iqta. What actually these Iqta means is to have a greater effect or the greater control over the conquered areas. Now Iltutmish granted Iqtas. These Iqtas are nothing but the land assignments in lieu of cash salary. So in spite of giving the cash salary to the soldiers, he will give Iqta. Iqta is a piece of land. These are given to the Turkish officers and on the large scales. Now the recipients of Iqtas are called Iqtidars, and they used to collect the land revenue from the territories under them. So out of this they maintained an armed contingent for the service of the state. They used to enforce law and order and meet their own expenses as well. It was Iltutmish who realized the economic potentiality of the Ganga Doab region, and Iqtas were distributed mainly in this region, and this secured for Iltutmish the financial and administrative control over one of the most prestigious regions of North India. Okay, so these things we are going to discuss in more detail when we will see the administration of Delhi Sultanate, as I have told you. So Iqtas, the concept of Iqtas was started by Iltutmish. He gave the Sultanate its two basic currency units, which is Tanka and Jittal. So Tanka are the silver coins and Jittal are the copper coins, and one Tanka used to be in 1 Tanka is equal to 48 Jittal in terms of their face value, and the coins were in Arabic script. Another interesting fact to note here is the coins which were issued by the Gauri and Aibak. Some coins were also in Devanagari script, and in some coins they used to carry the images of Gauri with the images of Hindu goddess Lakshmi. We will see now after Iltutmish another great king which will come will be Balban, and now kings from the Balban onwards, they started claiming that they have divine powers, and it's also known as a divine theory of kingship, which we will see. They used to call themselves the shadow of God, that is Naibe Khudai. And so that time the basic purpose was to have this divine theory of kingship, to strengthen their power and prestige, and to avoid the treachery from contemporaries, kings, relatives, slaves, nobles. So they had many enemies within their own family, so they started claiming that they are very near to God and they have divine powers. So as we have discussed last point, Iltutmish had maintained a corpus of 40 slaves who were known as Turkane Chahalgani, holding important departments, and interestingly one of them was Balban, who killed Iltutmish, and also other members of Chahalgani. We will see how Balban became the king. So here we finish Iltutmish. We have seen two kings till now, the Aibak and the Iltutmish. Iltutmish actually shifted the capital from Lahore to Delhi, and he started the administrative practices like Iqtas, the currency system in the country. So he is considered as the real founder of Delhi Sultanate India, and not Qutbuddin Aibak. There is a controversy here. Some may say Aibak was a founder of Delhi Sultanate. Yes, it is true, but the real credit for the consolidation of Delhi Sultanate, or giving it a sound practice of administration, it started with the Iltutmish Sultan, the sultans after Iltutmish and Iltutmish. Now, the problem of successor troubled Iltutmish during his last days, and Iltutmish did not consider any of his sons worthy of the throne. His own choice was his daughter Razia, and hence he nominated her as his successor. But after his death, his son Rukuddin Firoz ascended the throne with the help of army leaders, but with the support of the people of Delhi and some military leaders, Razia soon ascended the throne. Uh, Despite her obvious qualities, Razia did not fare significantly better because of her attempts to create a counter nobility of non-Turks and thus inviting the wrath of the Turkish armies. So that is how she became the first woman ruler of India, and we see in the writings of the contemporary writer Minhaj Siraj, who wrote about the sultans in his book Tabaqat-e-Naziri. These are books, names, and authors we are going to cover in the memory part as well. Now, Minhaj Siraj described Razia as a beautiful and intelligent and courageous woman who had all the qualities to become a successful ruler but was born with the wrong sex. Now the religious leaders and the nobles who was the Umaras. Now there are two terms here. I think you might be already knowing is one is ulemas and Umaras. So whenever I say ulemas, these are the Islamic religious men who were there to protect the laws of Sharias, and second are the Umaras, who are the nobles, who are the noble officers. Okay, so Umaras thought since Razia is a woman and they could use Razia to govern the Sultanate, but they were really shocked when one day Razia arrived at the court wearing the attire of her father, Kula and Kuba, and started dictating her own terms. So soon Umras, they realized that they cannot use Razia as a puppet, and she is a really powerful leader, and even Razia's mother and own father were against her. They were particularly incensed over her decision to appoint an Abyssinian king Yakut, Malik Yakut, as the Amir-e-Akhur, that is a post, Amir-e-Akhur, which is nothing but the master of horses. So he will take care of the horses of the army and royal house. The recruitment of a few other non-Turks to important posts further inflamed the matters, because it is clear that Turks nobles would not like non-Turks coming equal to them. So the nobility finally realized, though a woman, Razia was not willing to be a puppet in their hands, and soon the nobles started revolting against her in the provinces. They accused her of violating feminine modesty and being too friendly with an Abyssinian noble Yakut. And she later actually married the king of Bhatenda, Altunia. And she died, and her whole reign was a small one of 4 years, and she died in 1240 AD finally. Now we are seeing the real controversial nature of that Chahalgani group, which was created by Iltutmish, that after the death of Iltutmish, these nobles, or the group of 40 people, they assumed great power within them. Now the struggle for power between the Sultan and the Chahalgani group would have a conflict, and which began during the reign of Razia, even continued after her death. So after Razia's death, the power of Chahalgani increased, and they became largely responsible for making and unmaking of the kings. What it means is, now this group of 40 nobles, or the influential nobles, they started deciding the fate of the Sultanate by deciding the next Sultan. So Behram Shah, Alauddin Shah were the were made sultans, and they were removed also in succession. After them, in 1426 AD, one person named in the history as Ulugh Khan and later also known as Balban placed the inexperienced and young Nasruddin Shah, the grandson of the Iltutmish, on the throne and himself assumed the position of deputy. To further strengthen the position of Nasruddin, he married his daughter to Nasruddin. Sultan Nasruddin Muhammad, he died in 1265 AD, and according to some contemporary writers like Ibn Battuta and Isami, Balban poisoned his master Nasruddin and ascended the throne. So these were the kings, three sultans who came after the Wazir and Nasruddin Muhammad, who was also the son-in-law of Ulugh Khan or Balban. He ruled for the substantial part, but even he was the sultan, the main power was in the hands of the Balban during that time. The literary source Kate Nasiri, which again is written by Minhaj Siraj, it is dedicated to Nasruddin Muhammad. Now we come to the most important king of this period, that is Balban. So we studied, let us see important kings whom we have studied. First was the Aibak, second was Iltutmish, and now coming Balban. Now let us see what Balban will do in his rule. He is regarded as one of the greatest sultans of Delhi, and other great sultans are Iltutmish. Next we will see the Khalji dynasty, Alauddin Khalji coming, then Tughlaqs, Muhammad bin Tughlaq and Firoz Shah Tughlaq. These are the great kings or sultans whom we need to focus. His title was Ulugh Khan, and Ulugh Khan means great Khan, and he is famous for consolidating the Delhi Sultanate and bringing this the group of 40 nobles whom we are studying right from the Iltutmish, the Chahalgani or the Chalisa, under his control. So the struggle between the sultans and the Turkish nobles, or the Chahalgani Chalisa, it continued till one of the Turkish chiefs, Ulugh Khan or Balban, gradually arrogated all power to himself and finally ascended the throne in 1266 AD. Now when Balban became sultan, his position was not secure and many Turkish chiefs were hostile to him. Even Mongols whom we have seen, they were destroying the Central Asia, they were also looking forward for an opportunity to attack the Sultanate. The governors of the distant provinces were also trying to become independent rulers, and the Indian rulers were also ready to revolt at the smallest opportunity. Now here Balban ruled in an autocratic manner and worked hard to elevate the position of the Sultan. He did not allow any noble to assume great power, and it was he who started proposing the divine theory of kingship. He proclaimed himself to be Naib-e-Khudai, that is the shadow of God. He started claiming himself to be the descendant of an Iranian dynasty of Saria, that is a mythological dynasty which is described in a book of Firdausi named as Shahnama. He made strict court rules. Everybody had to remain standing and serious conduct has to be maintained in the court. He also introduced two important concepts, sajda and paibos. Sajda is prostration before the Sultan and paibos is kissing the feet of Sultan. Another thing now the king started doing is reading the khutbah. that is the name in the prayer on Friday at the mosque. So now khutbah started reading in the name of the king. So he was determined to break the power of Chahalgani and to keep himself well informed. Now Balban appointed spies in every department. He also organized a strong centralized army to deal with both internal disturbances and to repel the Mongols who had entrenched themselves in the Punjab, and now they were posing a serious threat to the Delhi Sultanate. Balban started a military department, Diwan-e-Arz, and deployed army in the different parts of the country to put down the rebellion. Now, by all these harsh methods, Balban controlled the situation, and as we have seen, in order to impress the people with the strength and awe of his government, the Balban started maintaining a magnificent court, and we have seen how he wanted a serious conduct in the court. He even refused to laugh and joke in the court, and even gave up drinking wine so that no one could see him in a non-serious mood. We have seen he also insisted on the practices of sajda and paibos, so that no one, including the nobles, his relatives, could stand in front of him. So some reasons for his divine theory and the court disciplines. That time we have seen the kings were insecure, and we have seen Balban himself poisoned Nasruddin Shah to become the Sultan. So earlier sultans, they had unnatural deaths. Even Balban was also humoured. We have seen that he has killed the previous emperor. So to avoid all this, he started ruling in this fashion, and historians say for this very reason Balban could rule without any major rebellions in his 80 years of his rule. So he ruled with blood and iron policy. He mercilessly suppressed all revolts very severely so that no group, including umras or ulemas and other rulers, could dare stand against him. Balban now is credited with many things. He was the first king in India who realized the importance of protecting borders, especially the northwestern borders, which were prone from the attack of Mongols. So the Balban's period, the greatest threat was from Mongols. In Mughal period, we will see it was from Afghans and Uzbeks. He appointed special officers at the borders, which were known as the warden marches. He maintained a chain of forts manned by soldiers and these wardens. He was a diplomatic person as well. There is a legend like one person, Haraluk Khan. He was a Mongol king, and he was the most hated person in Islamic world because he had in past assassinated the Khalifa of Baghdad, who is the superior religious leader of Islam. He killed him, but in spite of that, to just avoid any confrontation with the Mongols, Balban maintained diplomatic ties despite the religious and emotional reasons. So this is how the great kings, they used to work both with the diplomatic and the blood and iron policy. We also see the Mewat region of Haryana that time was having the problem of dacoits, and Balban responded this by cutting down jungles and established the police thanas manned by the Afghans people, and even arrested and killed a lot of looters. So after his death, his tomb was built at Mehrauli, and this is the first two-arc or Mehrab building in India, which became trendsetter in later period. So this is actually Balban tomb, and what this two arc means, the gate, if you see this gate, this shape is the arc. So it was introduced in first time in India by the sultans, and it became a trendsetter later. So this is true arc. The second building of this style was Alai Darwaja, which was constructed by Alauddin Khalji. Now Balban died in 1287 AD. Balban died in 1287 AD, and after his death the nobles raised his grandson Kaikabad to the throne. He was soon replaced by his son Camarus, who remained on the throne for a little over 3 months. During Balban region, there was a person known as Firoz, who had been the warden of the marches. As we have seen, he created the warden of marches to protect the border. This Firoz was one of them, and he had fought many successful battles against the Mongols. He was called to Delhi as Arez-e-Mumalik. Arez-e-Mumalik again is a post actually, which is a Minister of War. This terms we will see in the administration part of Delhi Sultanate. This is War Minister. So this person Firoz, he was the warden of marches. He was a good leader who had fought many battles. He was called to Delhi and he was made war minister, or Arez-e-Mumalik. Now in 1290 AD, Firoz took a bold step by murdering Camarus, who was now ruling the Sultanate, and he seized the throne. A group of Khalji nobles led by him established the Khalji dynasty, and now we will see the starting of a new dynasty. And some scholars call this event as the dynastic revolution or the Khalji revolution of 1290 AD. So it brought to an end of the so-called slave dynasty, and Firoz ascended the throne under the title of Jalaluddin Khalji. In 1287, Balban died. Then few armies raised his grandson to the throne, but later again his one of the son Camarus killed the grandson, and he became the ruler of the Sultanate. Later one person named as Firoz, who was the one of the warden at the border, he was called to the Delhi as the war minister, or Arez-e-Mumalik. Later he killed Camarus and now ascended the throne under the name of Jalaluddin Khalji. Now the Ibari dynasty was overthrown by Jalaluddin Khalji. Now again Khalji is a Turkish tribe. During this time they ruled between 1290 to 1320 AD, and the most famous sultan was Alauddin Khalji. The sources of information for early sultans was Kat-e-Nasiri by Minhaj Siraj. Another book, Tariq-e-Firokh Shahi, which actually means the history of Firoz Shah. It was written by a name Ziauddin Barani. It covers the history of around 100 years very professionally, between 1258 AD to 1347 AD, and he was present during the Tughlaqs, and he was not state sponsored. So that is how we say it is. If it is not state sponsored, the writer is now supposed to write the truth. Another important book which gives the details of this period is Ashika, written by Amir Khusro, and Muftab-ul-Futuh, again by Amir Khusro. These all books and authors, you don't worry, we would cover in the memory part, and maximum 5 to 10 minutes you would be remembering all authors, all books, everything. So now focusing on Jalaluddin Khilji, who started the Khalji dynasty. Jalaluddin Khilji, he ascended the throne at the age of 70 years. And although Jalaluddin retained the earlier nobility in his administration, but the rise of Khaljis now to the power ended the monopoly of nobility of slaves to high officers. Jalaluddin ruled only for short span of 6 years from 1290 to 1296 AD, but he tried to mitigate some of the harsh aspects of the Balban's rule. He was the first ruler of Delhi Sultanate to clearly put forward the view that a state should not be should be based on the willing support of the governed, that is the subject, that is the large majority of the people. And India at that time was also the majority were Hindus, so the state in India could not be a truly Islamic state. These were the views of Jalaluddin Khilji. Jalaluddin tried to win the goodwill of the nobility by a policy of tolerance. He avoided harsh punishments even to those who revolted against him. He not only forgave them but at times even rewarded them to win their support. However, due to these things, many people, including his supporters, considered him to be a weak king. But soon we will see the Jalaluddin's policies were reversed by Alauddin Khalji, who was his son-in-law, who now started awarding drastic punishments to all who dared to oppose him. There are certain credits to Jalaluddin. He was the first sultan who went beyond Vindhyas, that is the low hills of Madhya Pradesh, up to Devgiri, that is the Deccan region. So it was Alauddin Khalji who led this campaign. And we will see he defeated Raja Ramchandra Dev of Devgir and looted the palace. Now it was Alauddin who killed Jalaluddin after he came back to the capital after defeating the Deccan rulers and captured the power. Starting with Alauddin Khilji, good period to study from 1296 to 1316 AD. He is again one of the greatest king of Delhi Sultanate. Alauddin Khalji was Jalaluddin's ambitious nephew. Here I told Alauddin Khilji he was the son-in-law. He was not the son-in-law, he was the nephew of Jalaluddin, and he helped his uncle in his struggle for power, and he was appointed as Amir-e-Tuzuk, that is the master of ceremonies. These all are the different department names we would be discussing under administration. During Jalaluddin's reign, Alauddin had two victorious expeditions. First was of Vidisha. After that he was appointed as Ariz-e-Mumalik. If you remember Ariz-e-Mumalik, the war minister, whom Jalaluddin was also made after being the warden of marches for Balban. And in 1294 AD he led the first Turkish expedition to southern India and plundered Devgiri, that is Devgir. The successful expedition proved that Alauddin was an able military commander and efficient organizer. In now 1296 he murdered his uncle, that is Jalaluddin Khalji, and crowned himself as the Sultan. Please note it down, he was both the nephew and son-in-law of Jalaluddin. Right, these relations in modern times, it's difficult to digest, but that time in Muslim world, yes, he was both the nephew and son-in-law of Jalaluddin Khalji. Now Alauddin decided to revive the Balban's policies of ruthless governance, and he decided to curb again the powers of the nobles and interferences of ulemas, which are the religious leaders, in the matters of the state. He also faced a few rebellions in the succession during the early years of his rule. Now, the important areas of his eras which we will be focusing were his conquest, military conquest, his military reforms which he brought, the revenue reforms, the market control policy, and the turncoat policy, and the cultural development during this period. That includes art and architecture. As you can read in the screen as well, the sculptures were notably absent during the Islam rule in India because sculptures are the banned in Islam. So coming to the first topic, that is the military reforms, he was the first king actually who keep a standing army of 3.5 lakh soldiers, and he started paying soldiers in cash rather than in kind. He organized the army in decibel system, and two important practices which he started was the introduction of dag, that is the branding of horses with the royal seal, so that there could be no black marketing of horses, and second was the chehra, that is the identification of the soldiers. So these were the military reforms of Alauddin Khilji. Now coming to the military conquest, now under Alauddin Khilji, the territorial expansion of the Delhi Sultanate, it went beyond North India, and this was the most important achievement of the time for the Sultanate's rule. Now Alauddin first began his territorial conquest with the campaign against Gujarat. Now, why Gujarat? Because Alauddin was motivated by his desire to establish a vast empire and obtain the wealth of the Gujarat. Now, obviously, the riches of the Gujarat were to pay for his future conquests as well. And most importantly, the seaport of Gujarat was to ensure the regular supply of Arab horses for his army. So, he first attacked Gujarat, and many slaves were captured, and one important slave among them was Malik Kafur. Let us start with the conquest of first he attacked Gujarat, right, and name to remember here is Malik Kafur. Malik Kafur was captured by Alauddin when he invaded Gujarat, and later he became one of the most trusted commander for Alauddin Khilji. Gujarat now passed under the control of Delhi Sultanate. After the annexation of Gujarat, Alauddin turned his attention towards Rajasthan. Ranthambore was the first target because that time Ranthambore was reputed to be the strongest fort of Rajasthan and had earlier defied even the Jalaluddin Khalji. So Rajasthan, the first target was Ranthambore. So the capture of Ranthambore that time, because it was having the reputation of the powerful fort, it was necessary to break the power and morale of the Rajputs. There was an immediate cause of attack, which was that the ruler of Ranthambore that time, Hamir Deva, he gave shelter to two rebellious Mongol soldiers and refused to hand over them to Khalji. Hence an offensive attack was launched against Ranthambore, and to begin with, the Khalji forces that time suffered losses. Finally, Alauddin himself had to come on the battle, and in 1301 AD, the fort fell to Alauddin. Now, this thing happened in 1299, the annexation of Gujarat, Ranthambore 1301. Now, the second important Rajput state that time was Chittor. Now in 1303, Alauddin again captured Chittor, which was another powerful state of Rajputana, and according to some scholars, not the historians, some scholars maybe, Alauddin attacked Chittor because he started liking the queen of Chittor, Padmani. She was the beautiful queen of Raja Ratan Singh. But however, many good scholars or historians do not agree with this legend, as this particular thing was first mentioned by poet Jaisi in his book Padmavat more than 200 years later after that. According to Amir Khosrow, who that time accompanied Alauddin Khalji, Sultan ordered a general massacre of the civil population, and Chittor was renamed as Khizrabad after the Sultan's son Khizr Khan. After capturing Chittor, now he returned quickly back to Delhi as Mongol army that time was advancing towards Delhi. So Gujarat and Rajasthan now went to Alauddin Khalji. Third is Malwa. We see by 1311 Alauddin became the master of North India. But the imperialistic ambition or the expansionist ambitions of the Alauddin Khalji were not satisfied with the conquest of the north. He was determined to conquer the south as well. The wealth of the southern kingdoms obviously attracted him. The expeditions now to the south were sent under Malik Kafur, a trusted commander of Alauddin. You remember here the Malik Kafur? Now he is going to take the expeditions to South India. Malik Kafur planned the first attack in Deccan. The first was the Rai Karan, and second was against the Rai Ramachandran, the ruler of Devgir. So Ramachandran became an important name here of Devgir, who surrendered after little resistance to the Malik Kafur, and he was treated honorably. He was even kept as a guest at Alauddin's court and was given a gift of 1 lakh rupees and also the title of Rai Rayan. So this point important, we will see in the screen in some time. Even Alauddin married one of his daughters also to Ramachandran. Scholars say Alauddin showed generosity towards Ramachandran because he wanted to have Ramachandran as an ally for his campaigns in future further the southern Indian parts. From there he went to, let us see here, after Malwa it was Raikaran, and then Rayan, Ramachandran. Rayan Ramachandran, who was given the title of Rayan by Alauddin Khilji only, Devgir. After that, Malik Kafur even went to the Warangal, and he really looted the place, and according to Amir Khusro, Malik Kafur returned to Delhi with more than 500 elephants, 7,000 horses, 500 months of precious stones, and the Sultan honored Malik Kafur by appointing him as Naib Malik of the empire. The Alauddin forces under Malik Kafur continued to maintain a control over the Deccan kingdoms. Now here the Khaljis, they followed one policy. They never used to annex the kingdom. What they used to do is they used to defeat the kingdom, defeat the king, and then in turn they asked for some compensation to pay for them. This was the exact contrast policy which was, we will see, were followed by the Tughlaqs, particularly Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who now used to annex the kingdom, and he himself want to rule that particular state. So let us see in the screen now what we have discussed so far. The Gujarat was conquered 1299, we have discussed. Then he went towards Rajasthan. First was Ranthambore, we have seen. It was the strongest fort that time. And there was a method of conquering the forts at time which is known as the Kilabandi. Kilabandi simply means like seize of the fort. Like they will cut off all the supplies and they will wait for the people inside the fort to come out for the water and other food stuff. And when they run out of supplies, and that is how they capture the fort. The king of Ranthambore we have seen, it was Hamir Dev, and his queen committed Johar. In 1303 again we have seen him attack Chittor, whose king was Rana Ratan Singh. Chittor was described by Amir Khusro as the seventh heaven, and this Chittor conquest we have seen many scholars say he attacked Alauddin Khilji attacked Chittor because he started liking Padmavati, the queen of Rana Ratan Singh. It is also described in the romantic poem Padmavati, a Hindi drama by the Malik Muhammad Jaisi. His commander Malik Kafur attacked southern India in 1208 AD. The Yadav dynasty, that is Devgiri, earlier defeated by Alauddin, was again defeated by Malik Kafur. Malik Kafur also defeated the Katiyas of Warangal, Hoysalas of Dwas, Mudra, Madurai. So they attacked and they annexed. They didn't annex. They attacked and looted till end of South India. The policy of Alauddin Khalji was not to annex, we have seen that, and he didn't rule the kingdom but allowed the defeated ruler to rule, but they had to pay him some compensation. This is the major difference between the Tughlaqs and the Khaljis, what we have seen. Rai Ramachandra of Devgi was given the title of Rai Rayan as well. There has been one question asked in UPSC prelims which gave the Indian map, and it asks it gave the route also, asking like which actually ruler went till the end of the southern India, and it was actually Malik Kafur under Alauddin Khalji. So this question has been once asked in IAS prelims as well. Now another important feature of Alauddin Khalji, or one more credit given to the Alauddin Khalji, is for the market regulation that he bought into. So Alauddin Khalji, along with two other rulers, Sher Shah Suri and Akbar, these are the main three kings which are important in history for the changes and the differences they brought in the revenue administration of the state. Alauddin this time set up a new department, particular department for the finance and revenue. It was Diwan-e-Mustaqas. It was a new department to collect the details about the areas of the revenues. He crushed the power of intermediaries which were between the common peasants or common people and the state, like Khukt, Muqaddam, Chaudhry. And it was for the first time then that in this history we started getting the revenue data, revenue records, and there are no records for the earlier emperors for the revenue collection. So hence Alauddin is credited for the changes in the revenue administration, plus he made several changes in the ways revenue was collected. Before him, the land was measured to ascertain ownership. Revenue assessment was done on basis of land which was shown. Half of the assessed produce, and that is not the actual produce, actually production may be less and assessed production may be more. Half of that was collected as the revenue, and that tax we will see it was kharaj. And perhaps for the first time such high rates was imposed. Now revenue administration then second we come the market control policy. Alauddin's measures to control the markets were one of the most important policy initiatives which was taken by Alauddin Khilji. Now, since Alauddin wanted to maintain a large army, he therefore lowered and fixed the price of the commodities of the daily use. Now, to control the prices of the market, the Alauddin set up three different markets for different communities in Delhi. These markets were the grain market, the cloth market, now he started to have a control over the market, to have fixed and lower prices. What Alauddin Khilji did was he set up the different markets for different commodities, right? So these markets were the grain market, which is known as mandi. Second market was for the clothes, which is known as the sarai adal, and then the market for the manufactured items and for the sale of horses, slaves and cattle. To ensure the implementation of these policies, Alauddin appointed some superintendents which are known as Shehnai Mandi, who was assisted by the intelligence officers. Now, in total, he introduced 16 regulations for these markets in 1302 AD. This year also becomes important. The highlight of these regulations were, first was the price control. Commodity would be sold at a price fixed by the state and it cannot be market driven, and this ensured that there was no price fluctuation. Second was the procurement. The state would produce grains from the peasants directly, and Delhi was the only authorized market. Third was the registration. Now each trader had to register with the market and there was a centralized market. Different facilities were provided to the transporters which used to carry the different materials from the market to the fields, or from the fields to the market. And the reason of success of markets was the very good intelligence network. As we have discussed, Alauddin he appointed special officers known as Shehnai Mandi to look after the implementation of his policies, and who was also assisted by an intelligence officers. So we have informers who were known as Munihans, the secret spies who were known as Buddies, intelligence officers. So this time we see intelligence department was very well developed, and he appointed superintendents of markets and officials below him. So superintendent of markets were known as Daugai Mandi or Shehnai Mandi, and he used to report it to Diwai Riyasat. So these all things we will again cover in quite detail when we will see the administration part, the whole hierarchical structure of the market or the officers who look after the market. Now we come to another important thing under Alauddin Khilji. So far from under Alauddin Khilji, we see he was the first person who started having a permanent army of 3.5 lakh people, of 3.5 lakh soldiers. Then we see his military conquest right to the edge of the southern India. After that we see his revenue administration, new policies taken by him, and then some market control policy. He wanted to have the fixed prices or the lower prices for the commodities who are used in daily life, so that he can lower his own expenditure over the salaries of the soldiers. Then now we are seeing the turncoat policy of Alauddin Khilji. Now it simply refers to policy in which there are a group of people who are considered elite. We have seen Umras, and this policy is all about controlling these people. So Alauddin decided to revive the Bourbons' policy of ruthless governance, and he decided to curb the power of the nobles and the interference of ulemas in the matter of the states. Now, Alauddin, however, he felt that there are actually four reasons for these rebellions from the Umara sides. First one was the inefficiency of the spy system. Second was, he thought, is the general practice of the use of wine. Third, the social intercourse between among the nobles and the intermarriages between them, and the excess of wealth in the possession of certain nobles. Okay, now in order to prevent the reoccurrence of these rebellions, now Alauddin formulated certain regulations and implemented that. First thing what he did was, the families that had been enjoying free land to support themselves should pay land tax to the holdings. So this way what he will do is, he will take out excess wealth from the nobles. Second, what he did, he reorganized the spy system and took measures to make it more effective. Third thing, he stopped the use of liquor in intoxicants, and it was prohibited to use it in social gatherings. And fourth, the nobles were ordered not to have social gatherings or intermarriages without its permission. So that is how we call it as a turncoat policy to control the elite noble umras or ulemas during that time. Cultural developments during this period in art and architecture, let us see. He constructed Alai Darwaja. It was the second true arc building. First we have seen was of Jalaluddin Khilji Tom. Then second was Jamaat-e Khana. It was first building in India built in completely Islamic style. Shri Fort in Delhi. He attempted to build another minaret near the Qutub Minar, known as Alai Minar, which is still there if you go to Qutub Minar. He built a water tank, Khozai Alai, which was re-innovated by Firoz Shah Tughlaq later and named as Haus Khas. This is a place where now IIT Delhi is located. Haus Khas. And you have a metro station also near to this. Let us see some of the literature legends, the legends of literature, the great writers that time. First one is Amir Khusro. His time period, as you can see, is 1251 to 1325 AD. He was a disciple of Nizamuddin Aulia, a great Sufi saint. Amir Khusro served 5 sultans of Delhi, as we have seen before also. He was a historian and wrote a book known as Tughlaq Nama. And another important book was on Indian culture, Nue Sipir. You don't have to worry about remembering these things. Amir Khusro, we will deal with Amir Khusro in the memory part as well. He was a pioneer of Qawwali singing in India. Qawwali, normally also we know it's a chorus in praise of Sufi saints which are sing in the shrines of these Sufi saints. He was also credited for the foundation of 3 important ragas in Indian music, Yaman, Saman and Ghora, and he was believed to be the first Urdu poet. He was popularly known as Tota-e-Hind, that is the parrot of India. This thing I think we still have to discuss the first Urdu poet. Actually, Urdu is a language which got developed in India only. Urdu evolved with the mixture of the Central Asian language, like Arabic language, the classic Arabic language, and other regional languages of India, including Hindi. So Urdu came out to be a fusion of these languages, while officers that time used to speak in Arabic, while the majority of the population, they used to speak Hindi. So Urdu came out to be a language mixed between the Arabic and Hindi, and Amir Khusro is believed to be first Urdu poet. Now, the rulers of the Alauddin Khilji we see were not very powerful. We see one Indian origin Muslim king, Nasruddin. In 1321, he came to power, and he was a Hindu convert. Alauddin Khilji, he died in 1316 AD. Alauddin, he died in 1316 AD. And the Delhi Sultanate was again plunged into the confusion. Malik Kafur, whom we have seen, the trusted commander of Alauddin Khilji, sat on the throne for few days, only to be disposed of by a person known as Mubarak Shah. During this period, rebellions broke out even in Devgir, but were harshly suppressed. This Mubarak Shah was soon murdered and Khusro ascended the throne. However, he too did not last long, as some dissatisfied officers led by another person known as Ghiasuddin Tughlaq defeated and killed him in a battle. Thus, only 4 years after the death of Alauddin, the Khilji dynasty came to an end, passed into the hands of Tughlaqs. Now we are coming to the third dynasty, starting from the slave dynasty, then to the Khiljis, now to the Tughlaq dynasty. The main kings were Ghiasuddin Tughlaq, who ruled only for the 5 years, and then one of the greatest king again of Delhi Sultanate, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who ruled from 1325 to 1351. So Ghiasuddin Tughlaq was the founder of dynasty and named as Ghazi Malik. He reversed the harsh policies of Alauddin Khilji for the policies of Kharaj, whom we have seen it was made 1.5 during the time of Alauddin, and that is actually pretty high, and that too on the assessment of the production and not on the actual production. He collected revenue which was 1/3 or 1/4 of the produce on the basis of actual production. A famous fort of Tughlaqabad is near Delhi is credited to him. First marble built tomb was built by him opposite to this fort, and according to some legends, the Chishti saints disliked the Sultan. These Chishti saints, we will see while we will study the Sufism, disliked the Sultans because of their opulent lifestyle and their way of wasting the money, and the relations between Nizamuddin Aulia and Ghiasuddin Tughlaq were not good, and as we have discussed earlier also, Ghiasuddin Tughlaq was one of the king who died accidentally. And there is a legend behind this. When Nizamuddin Aulia, actually Ghiasuddin Tughlaq confronted Nizamuddin Aulia asking to return some of the state money, but Nizamuddin Aulia told him, no, I have already spent the whole money. So Ghiasuddin Tughlaq told him, no, you have to leave this place and you have to go somewhere else. Then Nizamuddin Aulia said one very famous dialogue, that is Dilli Abhi Dur Hai, and it is said that once Ghiasuddin Tughlaq was returning from his Deccan campaign back to the Tughlaqabad, and that time Muhammad bin Tughlaq actually decorated, and he made a huge pandal to welcome Ghiasuddin Tughlaq, but due to something happened, and people say it was because of the curse of Nizamuddin Aulia, the whole pandal, it collapsed and Ghiasuddin Tughlaq died in that. So, but many say it was the conspiracy by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So these are the legends, but as the history students, we should not be going much into the legends, but we should verify the historical facts before arriving to any conclusions. So Now we come to Muhammad bin Tughlaq. After giving a brief introduction about Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, his real name was Jana Khan, and he is a very interesting personality. In fact, we will see he was the most educated and also the most controversial Sultan of the Delhi Sultanate, and historians consider him as a man of paradoxes. He is also known in the history as the wisest fool. The reason for him being called wisest fool was that he experimented too much, and unfortunately many of his experiments actually resulted in failures, which caused huge economic losses. His court patronized scholars from different backgrounds, like Jain scholars you can read on the screen, Jin Prabhasuri. During his period, a travel from Morocco, this is Morocco, Ibn Battuta. You might have listened to the Hindi song Ibn Battuta, Bagal Mein Chuta. That actually is based on this writer only. So Ibn Battuta, he wrote a book Kitabul Rihala, and he was later made the Qazi of Delhi and was also sent to China on his behalf. He was the first Sultan who started celebrating the Hindu festivals, and just an additional point here, that Akbar's most favorite festival was Janmashtami. He was a very educated person and a very secular person, and he used to appoint people on the basis of merit and instead of religion or ethnicity. So this naturally we can say this is going to affect the power and the position of the noble Turk or Afghan nobles or the religious leaders that time. They definitely would not like that other religious people, they are coming and holding their the positions. So now let us discuss some of the policies and programs of Muhammad bin Tughlaq which actually failed. Now, first one is a transfer of capital. So this is one of the most controversial measures of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, that he transferred his capital from Delhi to Deogir. Now that is the Daulatabad. Now there are different versions by different historians. According to Dr. Mehdi Hussain, the Sultan wanted to maintain both Delhi and Daulatabad as his capitals. But as per Badani, another contemporary writer, in 1326 or 1327, Sultan decided to shift his capital from Delhi to Deogir, which is in the Deccan, that is Daulatabad, because it was more centrally located. There is another version by Ibn Battuta. He said the people of Delhi used to write letters containing abuses to the Sultan. So therefore, in order to punish them, the Sultan, now Muhammad bin Tughlaq, decided to shift the capital. Another contemporary writer, Isami, says it was a place at a safer distance from the northwest frontier and thus safe from the Mongols. So in view of different versions, it is difficult to assign one definite reason for the shift. But yes, the entire population was not asked to leave. Only the upper classes consisting of sheikhs, nobles, ulemas were shifted to the Daulatabad. No attempt was made to shift the rest of the population. Though Muhammad bin Tughlaq built a road from Delhi to Deogir and set up rest houses, but journey was extremely harsh for the people, and a large number of people died because of rigorous travelling and the heat. And due to growing discontent and the fact that the north India could not be controlled from the south, then Muhammad bin Tughlaq again he decided to abandon Daulatabad and shift capital again back to Delhi. So there is one consequence now which this shift actually led to the history. Now many people of the north now settled in Deccan and bringing about the significant changes in the culture and language of the region. The locals were called Deccani, and the Afghanis were people who settled from north. This linguistic group, now we will see at the end of Delhi Sultanate, when we will study, it led to the establishment of one of the most important kingdom of South India, that is Bahmani kingdom. Bahmani and the Vijayanagar kingdom we have to study in quite detail. Because these two, Vijayanagar and Bahmani kingdom, they play an important role in the history of medieval India. They had, to their credit, great art and architecture which they followed. The Gol Gumbaj of the many art and architecture, the important specimens of these Vijayanagar and Bahmani kingdom, and plus Vijayanagar is also famous for its administration policies, which we are going to study once we will study Vijayanagar and Bahmani kingdom. Another controversial policy which was took by the Muhammad Tughlaq, it was a token currency, the concept of token currency. According to the contemporary writer Barani, the Sultan introduced token currency because the treasury was empty that time due to Sultan's schemes of conquest as well as his boundless generosities. But some historians are of the opinion that there was a shortage of silver worldwide at that time, and India too faced that crisis. Therefore, the Sultan was forced to issue the copper coins in place of silver. So, what Muhammad bin Tughlaq he did, he introduced a copper coin Jittal in place of silver coin Tanka, and ordered that it should be accepted at equivalent to a Tanka. Now, what will happen is, what it means is, now one copper coin, it would be equivalent to the silver coin. However, the idea of token currency was quite new in India at that time, and it was difficult for the traders and the common people to accept it. Moreover, the state did not take proper precautions to check the imitations of coins issued by the mints. So the government could not prevent people from forging the new coins, and soon the new coins were flooded in the market. According to Barney, what he says is the people that time started to begin the mint coins, the token coins in their houses only. So for the common man, they cannot actually distinguish between the copper coin issued by the royal treasury and those which were locally made. So again, that policy of Muhammad bin Tughlaq failed, and he was forced to withdraw the token currency. Another important is the expedition to Khorasan, which was again failed. He raised an army of 3 lakh soldiers exclusively for this expedition, but later on abandoned the idea. So actually we can understand that once you recruit 3 lakh soldiers and you make them again unemployed if you abandon the idea. So these soldiers actually became unemployed, and these soldiers were armed and trained in army practices. So they started indulging in the unsocial activities like looting, which created problems in civil administration. Another policy, it was expedition to Kurachal. Now Kurachal is a place in Himachal Pradesh, and there was a rebellion in place Kangra in Himachal Pradesh. So Muhammad Tughlaq sent an army of 10,000 soldiers to suppress this rebellion. But the soldiers, Himachal Pradesh, it's in a hilly area. The soldiers were not trained for fighting in hilly terrains, but the oppositions, they were good in guerrilla fighting. So the cold injuries and diseases, it caused huge loss of life of soldiers, which created unrest. So we see how his policies actually led to the suffering of the common people. Another was the taxation in the Doab region. We have seen the Ganga Doab, it is the most fertile land in the Indian subcontinent. He ordered the collection of revenue to the land assessment at 50% of produce in this area. This actually created a huge unrest in this whole region, and the situation became more serious because there was a drought in the region. So hence the people were in no position to pay the taxes. And this led to the violence in the region, and tax officials were attacked and the crops were burned. Uh, Diwane Kohli, he established one department for the agriculture to rectify this situation. He provided loans which were named as Takvi and Sondar to the peasants. He collected samples of the land and tried to experiment with them, making the barren lands fertile. And he used to do a lot of expenditures on these experiments. He also tried to change the cropping patterns, and he tried to persuade farmers to grow more of the cash crops. So we see how this personality, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he is known as the wisest fool in the history of India. Um, After Muhammad Tughlaq, he was succeeded by his king Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Under him, no new territories could be added to the Sultanate, but he managed to keep large areas intact. There are some literary evidences for this period as well, which are Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi, written by Barani, Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi, written by Sham Siraz Afif. Now, difference between the Barni book and the Afif book is Barni was not a state sponsored. He was writing the book privately. He used to write what he used to feel, but Afif was the state employed writer, so he would write more in the favor of the state. Another book is Fatwa-e Jahandari and Fatwa-e Firoz Shahi. It was an autobiography which was written by Firoz Shah Tughlaq himself. He is known in medieval history as the welfare king. He set up 3 departments for the public welfare and better administration: Diwane Khairat, Diwane Imarat, and Diwane Risala. He is also known as a king who built the maximum number of irrigation canals, some more than 100 kilometers long. He collected a tax, Haq-e-Sharib, from the peasants now who were using the water from the irrigation canals. He built many hospitals, he built many orphanages and widow homes. This is widow, not window. He also started marriage bureaus to help poor people in marriages, and employment bureaus to help youth in development. There was large number of slaves in his empires, and he trained the slaves and helped them in providing self-employment. Though he is known as the welfare king in the history, medieval history, he followed really orthodox religious policies. Now, what he did was, initially the kharaj, the whole tax, it consisted of jizya. Jizya we have, I think, already discussed. Jizya is an tax which is collected from the non-Muslims. But originally the meaning of jizya was different. Actually, jizya, it began in Central Asia, and it was collected from the people who were not employed in the army. So to tell them, okay, you are not saving the country, you are not in the army, you have to pay this tax. But later this jizya, it got different meaning, and later it started getting collected from the non-Muslims only. Initially it was whether it's Muslim or the non-Muslim, if you are not in the army you have to pay the tax, but later it got separated. So he separated jizya from the kharaj. Earlier it used to be collected along with the kharaj, which is, we have seen the revenue tax on the agriculture. So he collected jizya even from the Hindu Pandit, that is Hindu theologians, and this created a huge uproar among the Hindus. He attacked Hindu temples, the Jwala Devi temple in Himachal Pradesh, Puri in Odisha. He banned female entry into shrines of Sufi saints. He tried to ban some non-Muslim festivals because he declared it un-Islamic, that is Shab-e-Barat. His most serious crime was to burning alive a Brahmin from converting Muslims into Hindus. He was there was a Brahmin who was trying to convert some people from Muslims to Hindus, and so he burned him alive. He is more. He's also known for his architecture. He built Firoz Shah Kotla. He repaired Hauz Alai, and now it is known as Hauz Khas. He repaired and constructed one floor of Qutb Minar, the fifth floor. He also built Kala Masjid in Old Delhi. Now, he tried to consolidate what all territories he got from Muhammad bin Tughlaq, but the political control of Delhi gradually weakened during the rule of Firoz Shah's successors. Moreover, the invasion of Timur in 1398. This again becomes important here when Timur attacked India. Timur was a Mongol. So the invasion of Timur in 1398 AD, it left the Sultanate desolate, and by the end of the Tughlaq rule, that is 1412 AD, the Sultanate was confined to a small territory in North India, and a number of regions proclaimed their independent status. And in the East Bengal and Orissa, they completely enjoyed autonomy. So that is how we finish with the Tughlaqs, and the situation we see now after Tughlaqs for the Delhi Sultanate doesn't look good. And it was even terrified by the attack of Timur in 1398 AD. So last few dynasties, so we saw Timur attacked in 1398. He defeated the army of Delhi in 1398, and he appointed Khizr Khan as the ruler of the Multan. And Khizr Khan defeated other sultans in occupied Delhi and founded Sayyid dynasty. So that is how the Sayyid dynasty was founded, but it has no important place in the history, and it ruled from 1414 to 1451. Its founder was Khizr Khan. There is an important book during this time, and that is the Tariq-e-Mubarak Shahi, which was written by Sarhindi. It claims that the founder of the Sayyid dynasty, that is Khizr Khan, he was the descendant of Prophet Muhammad. Right. So some important things about Sayyids, not very important. Then we come to the last dynasty of the Delhi Sultanate. Finally, that is the Lodhis. There are three important kings of Lodhis: Bahlol Lodhi, Sikandar Lodhi, and Ibrahim Lodhis. Important point to note for the Lodhis is these were the first Afghan rulers. The earlier rulers were Turkish. For Sayyids, it is disputed, like they were from which descendant. The slave dynasty rulers, the Khalji dynasty rulers, the Tughlaqs, these were the Turkish origin. Now Lodhis were the first Afghan rulers. So the Lodhis were the last ruling family of the Sultanate period and first to be headed by the Afghans. So Bahlol Lodhi was the first Sultan of Delhi too who captured the Kashmir as well. They introduced a new currency called Pehloi. After the death of Bahlol Lodhi, Sikandar Lodhi ascended the throne. Sikandar Lodhi, same with the Firoz Shah Tughlaq, he showed little tolerance toward the non-Muslims and he reimposed jizya on non-Muslims. Sikandar Lodhi is also credited of building the Agra city in 1504 AD, and he shifted the capital from Delhi to Agra in 1506 AD. Ibrahim Lodhi was the last king and he faced the attack from the Babur in 1526 AD. The Lodhis are famous for Lodhi Garden. It is in Delhi. Another important monument is the tomb of Sikandar Lodhi, which has the first evidence of the double dome in India inside the Lodhi Garden in Delhi. Summing up the end of the Sultanate, we can say the Sultanate of Delhi, which had its birth on the Battle of Tarain in 1192. If you remember, here the Muhammad Ghori defeated Prithviraj Singh Chauhan. It breathed its last in 1526 AD, which is, this was Tarain, and this is Panipat. A few miles from Tarain, Delhi Sultanate cedes, and which when Babur defeated Ibrahim Lodi. So this is all about the different dynasties and the important rulers of the Delhi Sultanate. I know we actually tried to focus mainly on the important points because, as you know, history is a long subject, and if you start studying in history in detail, you cannot study other subjects for the UPSC, which are again more important than this. So some important points, and memory session would cover a lot more things which are required to be remembered, and it's going to be a fantastic session again, like the ancient history. So we can sum up the decline of Delhi Sultanate, which is the success of Babur. We will study about Babur in our next lecture when we will start the Mughal rule in India. There was some inherent weakness which started after the death of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. First was the Iqtidari system was made hereditary. Iqtas, if you remember, again this thing we will discuss in the administration part. Iqtas, if you remember, were given to the officials in lieu of their cash salaries. Now the Iqtidari system was made hereditary. So Iqtidar's son or son-in-law would get that particular Iqta after his death. There were regular conspiracies in court which were caused by Umras, which weakened the state. And also after Firoz Shah Tughlaq, we could not see a great king who could control the vast empire. If we see some of the challenges which were continuously faced by the Sultanate, it would be the attack by the Mongols. So since its inception, the major threat to the Sultanate came in the form of Mongol invasions. Mongols, we have discussed, these were the nomadic group who inhabited the steppes north of China and east of Lake Baikal. They formed a huge nomadic empire under the great king Genghis Khan. In the 12th century, and from 13th century onwards, and they started repeatedly attacking Delhi Sultanate, and the sultans as a policy appeased them and also at times confronted. What we have seen, Iltutmish, he diplomatically handled Genghis Khan that time, but Balban and Alauddin Khalji confronted them with full might. During Khalji time, Mongols under one king even beside Delhi and caused a lot of damage. Another important attack which we have seen, which shook the foundation of the Sultanate, was by the Timur in 1398. The weakness of the Delhi Sultanate was made even worse by Timur's invasion of 1398. Second reason we have discussed, the challenges faced by the Delhi Sultanate, it was the inner conflict of the nobility. Another were the provincial kingdoms, then the resistance by the Indian chiefs. So that is what I would like to discuss. We would like to discuss under Delhi Sultanate conceptual part. Now this time we will start with the Mughals, the establishment of the Mughal rule in India. And then later we would be starting with the Vijayanagar and Bahmani kingdom, and another important chapter would be on the administration in Delhi Sultanate and Mughal rule. That is one of the most important part, and important from the perspective of UPSC as well. So thanks for tuning in. We are winding up our Delhi Sultanate part here only, and hope you have enjoyed the session. Don't miss the memory part, because that would actually make all the difference between you and your competitors. All would be studying this Delhi Sultanate, but you can see, I mean, how much you can remember after 2 days, but after that memory session, all the important things about medieval history will be in your mind. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks again. Thank you.